I don't care if it's October, if there's 9 degrees outside, and if this car is equipped with Michelin Sport Cup 2 tires. I don't care if I have to wear 3 hats, 2 jackets, 5 pair of pants, whatever. This car is called a Spyder. It was built to be driven top down, rain or shine. And that's exactly what I'm gonna do.
Porsche GT cars. Think of them as M cars to BMW or AMG vehicles to Mercedes. These are high-performance Porsches, and the GT division that builds them have delivered some of the best Porsches ever to exist. GT3s, GT3 RSs, GT2s, GT2 RSs, and the fantastic 919 Spyder are just a few examples of what awesome machines the Porsche GT division has produced. And in the past few years, the Cayman has finally received a high-performance variant as well, the GT4. Featuring a 3.8-liter flat-6 naturally aspirated engine, GT3 dampers and brakes, plus a number of other improvements, the GT4 quickly became a favorite among car fanatics. Along with this car, Porsche also introduced the Boxster Spider. However, except for the engine, the roofless Spyder didn't really share other things with the GT4. But when the 718 GT4 was unveiled, things changed quite a lot for the Spyder.
This is no longer a Boxster with a fancier engine, nor is it a Boxster GTS, for that matter, even though they share the same engine. For the first time ever in its history, the Spyder is now a full-on GT product. It's basically a roofless GT4. Except for the aero, meaning the fixed wing on the back and the smaller splitter up front, the two cars are identical. And you can easily tell that just by looking at the back of this car and seeing that huge diffuser from the GT4. And if I do say so myself, this is a gorgeous machine.
So in today's video, I'm gonna tell you what makes this car so special. We're gonna do a quick walk around, I'm gonna tell you some of its cool features, then we're gonna drive it, and finally I'll tell you how is it possible for Porsche to keep building cars with these big naturally aspirated petrol engines, despite the quite drastic emission regulations in Europe.
I just love the look of this car. It's pretty, it's angry, and it's low to the ground at the same time. I just love it. This particular example is finished in this crayon gray, I guess, paint job. It's a special Porsche color and it's fantastic. It sits on 20-inch Porsche Spyder specific wheels, painted in satin black, that's an optional extra, and they're wrapped in Michelin Pilot Sport Cup 2 tires. And while the front tire is identical to the GTS I drove a few weeks back, the rear tires are significantly wider. So we have two 45s at the front and two 95s at the rear. Now, as you've probably seen, you have to operate the roof manually. It's not a big deal to do it, but you do have to stop the car completely in order to put it up or down. It only comes in 2 colors, black like you see on this car and a red one. Now, the interior is not that different to other Caymans or Boxsters. The only 2 significant changes are on the steering wheel, where you have no more Manettino switch because there's no more driving modes in the Spyder. And the other one is the buttons below the gear lever, which are different. The seats are fantastic. They're the fixed bucket seats. They're not exclusive to the GT4 or the Spyder. You can order them in the GTS, for example. And that pretty much sums up the spec of this fantastic machine. Now, should we jump inside and start driving? Shall we? What a machine this is, wow! It's the first time I drive a Porsche GT car, and let me tell you, these machines are something else. First off, there's no driving modes in this 718 Spyder. Everything comes perfectly set up from the factory by Porsche's engineers. The only settings you can play with are the loud button, which makes the exhaust louder, obviously. Then you have the dampers button, which makes the chassis and the whole ride stiffer. Then you have the stability and traction control buttons right below it. And finally, you also have the auto blip function, which actually does a very good job, and it's not as intrusive as in other cars, and it allows you to override it quite easily if you want to be more aggressive with your heel and toe.
Although the suspension offers less adjustments, as in the GT4, that car has manually adjustable dampers by the way, it's still set up perfectly, body control is superb, there's really no body roll or flex for that matter, and even though the dampers have little travel, the ride is not harsh, it is firm but not unpleasant. The steering is pin-sharp accurate, with lots of feel coming through the rack, a smaller than usual steering wheel, typical for Porsches, and some of the best brakes in the business. Very progressive and quite surprising, they also give you a lot of feedback through the pedal. Overall, a sublime driving experience.
It's October, there's 9 degrees Celsius outside, I'm driving on Swedish B roads near the forest, and let me tell you, the grip from this Michelin Pilot Sport Cup 2 tires is unbelievable. You just need to be a bit careful at first so that you can properly heat up the tires and get a grip of how the surface is that you're driving on, and then you're good to go. The front end feels glued to the road, so does the back end, but if you overdo it, the rear wheels start to let go a little bit, but in a very progressive way, allowing you to quickly react and get the car back in line. In the wet, it's obviously a different story, but usually with sports car you have to be extra careful in the rain. But overall, they're very impressive, and there's very little compromise you have to do when buying tires like these.
This car uses the same 4-liter naturally aspirated engine as the GTS I drove a couple of months ago, but it produces 20 more horsepower, 420 to be exact. It also has 420 Nm of torque, and coupled to this wonderful 6-speed manual transmission, the engine can take the car from 0 to 100 km/h in just 4.4 seconds. It's a superb power unit, throttle response is instant, and power delivery is linear, as you would expect from a naturally aspirated unit. But it has an 8,000 RPM redline, and even though it's equipped with a dreaded OPF filter, take it beyond 6,500 RPM and it is sublime. But like I've said in the beginning of the video, how can Porsche get away with big capacity naturally aspirated engines in 2020 despite the stringent emission regulations? Well, here's a few reasons. The 718 Spyder and the GT4, since they're basically the same, are the first ever GT cars to be offered with an engine that has start and stop functionality. And this power unit is also the first Porsche engine with cylinder deactivation. Yup, at engine speeds between 1600 RPM and 3000, and under light loads of course, this car can run on 3 cylinders alone.
The long gear ratios are still here. Second gear is basically all that you need on a public B road, but if I'm not mistaken, the height of this gear lever feels shorter than the one in the GTS I drove a few weeks back, and that just makes the gear shifts even faster than before. This car is incredible. Yeah, honestly, it's very difficult to find faults in this car. It really is. It's not cheap by any means, but you do get quite a special machine for your money. It's basically a baby speedster, this car, and while the 2020 GT4 is not really that different from the old one, you can't say the same thing about this 718 Spyder.
because it's basically transitioned from a Porsche with a big and wonderful engine to a full-on GT car.
At this moment, I think this is the only car that would make me trade my empty competition for a new car. It's just fantastic, but I'll have mine in gentian blue, metallic, with the red roof, with the silver wheels, and with the PDK transmission.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
But that's been it for today's video, my friends. I really hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you so much to my friends at Porsche Sweden for lending me this car for the weekend. It's been a dream, to be honest. Please hit the like button if you enjoyed this video, and make sure you're subscribed for plenty more videos to come. And until next time, take good care of yourselves, and I'll see you around.